Thank you so much for joining us online. My name is Taylor Leal, and I am the Kids Director here. And I'm assuming there are a lot of you watching online today because Traverse City has a ton of snow. So thank you for watching us online. Thank you for following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Today we're going to be talking about decision making. And with New Year's resolutions, we have a lot of decision making looking forward. So before we kick off this message, I want you guys in a few moments to take a look at this video. All right. Well, hey, you guys just got a glimpse of what our next series is going to be. So next Sunday, that's what we're jumping into. We're jumping into a series called Crave. And I think with New Year's resolutions, there's a lot of things that we're kind of grappling with. Like, what do we need to give up? Where does our self-control need to be? And what does it need to look like? And so we're going to be jumping into a brand new series next Sunday called Crave. My name is Taylor, and I am the Kids Director. And I just need to give you guys a round of applause because you guys muscled the snow. Good job. You guys I need a little bit more energy. There's only a few of you in the room. Thank you. Yes, Greg. That's awesome. Well, hey, we just want to say welcome. If it's your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad that you made it out and are hanging out with us this morning. I would love for you guys to stand up. We are going to actually start off with a few songs this morning with Carrie and Ryan, and it's just going to be a really awesome moment. So we'd love for you to stand up, say hello to people around you, and let's kick off this morning.
Waking up to another life, no more sorrow and no more night. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Burning bright 'cause we're not ashamed, got a world to illuminate. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us, our praise will break the darkness. We declare your kingdom's here, because our God is for us, we're living in the promise. We declare your kingdom's here. Sing it out. Shadows fade as you now rise. Hope is here with no end in sight. You're the light, let it shine now. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us, our praise will break the darkness. And we declare your kingdom's here, because our God is for us, we're living in the promise. And we declare your kingdom's here. light, shine a light. Shine a light, shine a light. Shine a light, shine a light. Shine a light, shine a light. Oh, shine a light, shine a light. Come on, sing it out. Shine a light, yes. Shine a light, oh. Shine a light. We got a light. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. All right. So good to be with you guys today. My name is Ryan. This is Carrie, and we're just so excited to be here and be singing with you guys. This next song we're going to be doing is called What a Beautiful Name. And what I love about this song is that it really just kind of connects the idea of having a light and what that hope, what that light actually represents. And that's why we're singing, is we have the hope of Jesus. And if you're kind of just a skeptic or a non-believer, maybe watching online or in the room, just encourage you. Let the words just kind of impact you, speak to you, and just encourage you to search your heart as we sing this song. You were the Word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is, nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus. Heaven without us, so Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. Death could not hold you. The veil tore before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. Oh, you have no rival. Go sing it out. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Oh, yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. Let's sing this last part one more time, every voice. Death could not hold you, failed to before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring, you sing the praise of glory. For you are raised to life again. You have no rival, you have no equal, now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom, yours is the kingdom, come on. Yours is the glory, yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is, what a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is, nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus.
Awesome. Well, hey, you can go ahead and find your seat today. My name is Joe, and I just want to say again, welcome to Kensington. Thanks for braving the winter conditions to get out here on New Year's Eve. Who's got big New Year's Eve plans this evening? Okay, let's all hang out. There's like 4 people who got plans. We can all hang out together maybe. We'll all go to my house. Just kidding. But New Year's Eve is a year or a time of year we kind of look back and reflect on everything that's going on. And just even this year here at our campus in Traverse City, there's been some awesome things. I look back to even past this summer when it was warm and we had family movie night out on the lawn somewhere underneath those snowbanks. We had 100 or a few hundred people here. That was a fun night. We watched Trolls. I think about other times this year where we had our Thanksgiving baskets. That's one of my favorite things we did. Some of us went over to Traverse Heights Elementary and passed out baskets and packed them there and went out into the community. We did our trunk or treat over there. There's been baptisms here. We've seen, I think, over 40-some people at this campus get baptized alone this year. We did our baptisms outside. Like, there were so many cool things that we got to be a part of this year at this campus. And so all of that is made through gifts and financial gifts. And so we will have a message from our founding pastor, Steve Andrews, as we kind of wrap up this year and look back at all the things that we've done. So check out this message from our founder, Steve Andrews.
Hey, I hope you've had an amazing Christmas holiday. And I know that many of you, tons of you, have made a year-end Christmas gift to Kensington, and that some of you are still planning on it. I want you to know that today is your last day in the service and also online to make this happen. And I want you to know even more than that your giving and your partnership means the world to me. We have no idea how many people God is going to allow us to touch in 2018, but your giving allows us to blast into a new year. Thank you so much.
And like he said, we want to thank you, too, for partnering with us here at our campus and see all of the great things that we are doing here. One other thing we want to put on your radar for coming up in just a few weeks. We know it's at our Troy campus, but every year we do this thing called the Leadership Gathering. We do it twice a year, where it is for people who call Kensington not only home, but are invested in maybe serving on a team, leading a small group. Maybe you're a leader in your business or workplace. We get together every twice a year for this conference that we host. And it is an amazing conference where we get inspired, we feel equipped, and it kind of launches us into the next season. So our Leadership Gathering is coming up in just a couple of weeks. And so to kind of give you a taste of what will be happening there, I want you to check out this promo about what is going to be happening at Leadership Gathering in a couple weeks.
Lead can't lead if you're not hearing the voice of God.
Together, there is nothing that we can't do. I really believe that God has given us a sacred trust.
But God wants to do the work in you first, and He wants you to respond so that we can go out in force together from this place.
Good. This is awesome. So,
And that's January 19th and 20th. So just a couple weeks. If you've never been to a leadership gathering, it is a great time. It is a lot of fun. Our staff is going to be going down there. We would love for you to join with us. And if you have any questions about maybe where to stay or how to get down there, visit one of our team members out in the lobby, and we can give you some more information about how to get down there and what it'll look like. It is an exciting time, and I look forward to it every year. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about 2017 and what the year meant to us. And now, 2017 in our church was an amazing year. 2017 in our world was kind of a crazy year, right? We look back at all of the crazy things that have happened in 2017. We've seen so many disasters. We've seen so many funny things. We've seen so many crazy things. This entire year, if I could describe it as one word, it would probably be crazy. And I want us to sit back for a second. I'm going to kind of hand it over to my friend Cody, and we're going to watch a video as we kind of reflect back on 2017 and then look ahead into 2018.
As we look back on 2017, what do we see? What are the memories that it will leave? What will it be remembered for? That new funny meme or maybe something more? The year of the inauguration, did your team win? Are we keeping score? Are we fighting for love or starting a war? 2017, the year of the walls, because if you don't think like me, talk like me, or walk like me, stay on your side, I've made up my mind, and I'm more comfortable if you don't cross my line. Just check the Facebook wall we look at every day. I see posts laced with hate and demonstrations to retaliate, because we love to prove that you're wrong, and we think this is what it looks like to be really strong. Posting from behind a screen, so you know, people will know what I mean. Making names into numbers and pretending like we care. Cause I posted to create awareness. I click share. But when was the last time we took the time to stare at pain in the face of the hurting? Took the time to see the humanity in the image of God and the people we pass? Not even saying hi, because we have to complete our task. And it's so easy to ask, well, how did we get here? But each choice, good or bad, starts with the person in the mirror deciding, what will I live for? Will my life be used to build or destroy? What kingdom will I advance more? It all starts with the decisions that I make. Will I choose to love or demonstrate hate? And if 2017 was the year of the walls, then let 2018 be the year they all fall. Let our New Year's resolution be a revolution that screams, we choose love. Flicker, flicker, and the light breaks into the night. Hope on the horizon, a reason to fight. Darkness cowers at the light of Jesus Christ. This light that's flickering is starting to spread, a spark that's marked by people who become love. Living stones, building blocks of light, illuminating the earth with the good news of Christ. Unity, peace, and love. The weapons of our warfare, bullets that declare we actually care. We're not just stepping into the future, we're intentionally creating a new world. Each good deed a building block that paints a new mural. There's no walls in heaven, and we declare there shouldn't be any here. So we stop to hear the voice of those in pain, listening to hear their stories and remembering their names. And this spark becomes a fire, and this fire becomes a flame. From the ash rises beauty by the power of Jesus' name. So it's important to remember, change starts with me. So ask, as we look to 2018, Who will I be? What is the legacy that I will leave? Will I build a better future than the present I'm in, or with each personal choice advance destruction? Because the truth is, if I want to see a better world, it starts with me. So in 2018, ask, who will I be?
Kind of makes you think about this year and kind of everything that's happened, and kind of put it in a different light and kind of way to think about it. And I know for me right now, as I scroll through Facebook and as I scroll through social media, I love New Year's Eve because so many people are like trying to get their lives, trying to figure out what is going on and like how they can correct it, what they can do to change. And one of my favorite things I love is I love like motivational quotes. Like I'm cheesy and cliche like that. And so I love motivational quotes, especially around this time of the year, because you can get inspired to change. You can get inspired to make differences or make things happen in your life that were different from last year. And I think we're all in that spot right now where as 2017 winds down, we look ahead to the future and wonder, what can we change about ourselves and what can we do differently next year than maybe we didn't do this year? And so I thought to kind of get us started, maybe, you brave the weather to get here, maybe give you some more motivation. You obviously aren't in need of motivation like you got up here. I was up at 5 a.m. this morning shoveling my driveway because it was bananas. And so I felt like motivated this morning. And maybe if you don't have it, I'm going to try to give you some motivation. So I picked a couple of my favorite quotes. One of them is from a guy named Henry Ford. Now, I love Ford. I drive a Ford. I love all the Fords. Every Ford is great. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Everyone go, that was good. Like, right? Like that's a good, powerful quote. You can write that down. That's a good one to live by. I like this one too, by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says it like this. He says, the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Like you can Instagram that and that'll get you like 15 likes really fast. Like that's a powerful quote. I really like that one. This is one of my favorite ones here. This one is by Walt Disney. It says, when you believe in a thing, believe in it all the way, implicitly and unquestionable. I love that. Walt Disney, great quote. This is like one of my personal favorites. This is how I live my life. Maybe some of you will recognize this quote. It says, you will miss 100% of the shots you never take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. If you watch The Office, you understand that. If not, it'll go over your head and just let it go. But for me, that is a powerful quote. I love that one. And there's one that's also maybe a more impactful quote that I want us to look at today. And it's going to be the premise of what we're talking about today. And it's a quote by, some call him a theologian, I don't, but George Costanza. And he says, I should do the opposite. And if you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen the episode, I'm going to fill you in with one of my favorite pieces of Seinfeld history. Go ahead and watch this with me.
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong. My life is the complete opposite of everything I want it to be. Every instinct I have in every aspect of life, be it something to wear, something to eat, it's all been wrong.
Tuna on toast, coleslaw, cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. I always have tuna on toast. Nothing's ever worked out for me with tuna on toast. I want the complete opposite of tuna on toast. Chicken salad on rye. Untoasted, with a side of potato salad, and a cup of tea.
Well, there's no telling what can happen from this.
Chicken salad's not the opposite of tuna. Salmon's the opposite of tuna, because salmon swim against the current, and the tuna swim with it.
Good for the tuna.
George, you know that woman just looked at you.
So what? What am I supposed to do?
Go talk to her.
Elaine, bald men with no jobs and no money who live with their parents don't approach strange women.
Well, here's your chance to try the opposite. Instead of tuna salad and being intimidated by women, chicken salad and going right up to them.
Yeah, I should do the opposite. I should.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes. I will do the opposite. I used to sit here and do nothing and regret it for the rest of the day. So now I will do the opposite, and I will do something. Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that You were looking in my direction.
Oh, yes, I was. You just ordered the same exact lunch as me.
My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
I love that right there. I love Seinfeld, and I love George right there. He literally has this revelation that everything that he's ever done has been wrong. And so he decides to do the opposite. He says something at the beginning of that clip that I'm sure a lot of us have felt at some point. Maybe you haven't felt this, but he says, every decision I have ever made in my life has been wrong. How many of us have ever felt like that? Maybe like you're sitting here going like, man, every decision I make, it doesn't go right. Maybe I thought I was going to do this. I thought I was going to go here in my life, but every decision I have been wrong. Some of us have felt that before. Maybe not entirely, like our entire lives are wrong, but maybe we felt before that we have made wrong decisions. We have done the wrong thing and it is not going right. Maybe you have even let that define you. Maybe you've sat here and you said, man, that is who I am. And it's easy to let words that we hear define us. It's easy to let words that we hear define us. Maybe you've sat here and you've heard, man, you failed. And so you just hear that you have failed maybe with a business, maybe with a relationship, maybe with a marriage. You hear that word failure and you assume that's who you are because you've heard it. Maybe you're sitting here, man, and you say, I feel insignificant. People have told me that my job doesn't matter. People have told me that I'm not that big of a deal, that I'm not special. And you begin to believe it. And so you let that word, that thing define you as a failure and insignificant. Maybe you even feel unloved. And the fact that you feel that no one loves you, that no one cares for you, that no one appreciates you, and you begin to think they're right. You see, I believe we all have one thing in common. I believe we all have one thing in common, and that is this. I believe that we all want to be awesome, right? All of us at some point in our life want to be awesome. I'm going to invite the ushers to come down and take the offering. And as they're doing that, I'm curious for you right now. If there was something that you wanted to be awesome at when you were younger, what was it? Just shout it out if anyone has anything. For me, I wanted to become Stone Cold Steve Austin as a pro wrestler. I thought that was my life track. What did you want to be awesome at? Just shout it out, anyone. Singer? What was that? Professional bass fisher? Nice. All of us want to be awesome at something. Maybe you're sitting here today and you're going, man, I want to be awesome at, opening a business, starting a business. I want to be awesome at, running finances. I want to be awesome at these things. I wanted to be awesome, like I said, when I was younger at being a professional wrestler. And nowadays, my focus has changed. One of the things I want to be awesome at is becoming a better dad. I have a 6-month-old son. He's the man. And I want to learn how to become a better dad. I want to learn how to continue to become a better husband at times. There are times in my life where I want to continually be awesome at something. Maybe you feel the same way too. Maybe you want to be awesome at your job. Maybe you want to be awesome with your family. Maybe you want to be awesome at your faith. Maybe this year in 2018, you want to look at your faith and you want to be awesome. You want to be better at. Maybe you want to be better at cooking. I know that's one thing I wish I was better at. There's all of these things that we wish that we could be better at sometimes. And maybe you had a direction that you were going. Maybe you were on the right track, but then something derailed you. Maybe it was a decision you made, something you said, something you did, somewhere you went, but a decision sabotaged or changed those plans. What I've learned is that we all want to be awesome, but there's one thing that's very true. It's this, that awesomeness doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up one day great at something. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be the best basketball player in the whole world. You don't wake up one day shooting baskets like Steph Curry. I wish that happened for me, but that takes hours, that takes choices, that takes practice. Becoming awesome isn't just something that happens overnight. You have to continually make choices to help you get to where you want to get. And you see, right now, me and Taylor, we're newlywed. We've been married for about a year. We have a small house. We're starting our family. And so one of the things that we're trying to do in our relationship is become financially stable, to have financial goals that we're trying to hit. Nothing crazy. We're still trying to, order, Little Caesars $5 pizzas. We're not trying to make crazy financial goals. We're just trying to figure out what it looks like for us to be married. And so we have some goals. We want to finish our basement. We want to do these things. And a couple of weeks ago, we had this goal. And a couple of weeks ago, we found ourselves in a spot we didn't want to be in. And we looked back to figure out, how did we get there? And the problem is we said yes to a bunch of things that maybe we shouldn't have. Me and her had said yes to stand up in our friends' weddings. And all of a sudden, a $300 suit rental, a $70 dress, a $60 haircut, $50 for nails. All of a sudden, these things add up, $100 to give them. All of a sudden, we're like, well, geez, that was expensive. But we just said, okay, whatever. And then our friend was in town, and our friend's really handy. And he's like, hey, let me help you with the basement. And so we went and we bought supplies to start finishing our basement. And all of a sudden, we had to rent sprayers. And of course, I wasn't going to get the little sprayer. I was going to get the big sprayer that's, $60 more. And so we're renting all of this stuff. We're doing that. And all of a sudden, our bank account's going down, 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 down. And then all of a sudden, our car starts breaking. And we're like, man, all of these things, we said yes to so many things. And none of them were bad. None of them were wrong. We weren't like going over to the casino and dropping 600 on black. We were making like just little yeses. But all of those choices led us to a spot where we didn't want to be. None of it was bad. It just wasn't right. And that's what happens sometimes with our choices. Sometimes we can make choices that are going in a direction and we don't even realize it's pulling us from where we want to be. And so those are some examples. But what if you want to be awesome at something big? What if you want to be awesome at friendships, like the relationships you have with other people? What if you want to be awesome at those things? What if you want your reputation as a person, as a man, as a woman to be foolproof? What if you want to be awesome at that? What if you want to have an awesome career? What if you're looking right now at your goals for 2018 and you say, I want to be here, I want to be great? What if you in your finances, you all have goals, you have family, you have faith? What if we looked at all of our goals and we said we want to be awesome at all of those and even bigger? What if we want to just be awesome at life? You see, then the decisions we make aren't just yes and no. There's some gray area. There's some judgment calls that we have to make in our decisions and choices. And those gray areas are where a lot of us struggle sometimes. Because those gray areas require us to make a choice at some point about how we're going to handle things in our life. They could be little things, they could be big things, but here's what I've understood. I understand that big goals in our lives all start with something very small. The big goals you and I have for our life, the things we want to be, the things that we dream for, the things we hope for, these big goals all start with something really small. Choices. The choices you and I make, the everyday choices, the small choices, the yeses, the nos, the maybes, all of those choices that we make add up to something big. Every small choice adds up to something big. And the truth is, none of us can avoid this because decision-making in general is unavoidable. You cannot avoid making choices. You cannot avoid decision-making. Some of us wish we could. Some of us wish that there could be no way that we could just go through life, someone hands us a playbook and says, here you go, this is how your life is going to look. That would be easy for some of us. But we have to make decisions. Who are you going to go with for New Year's Eve tonight? Who should I date? Maybe some of you are single here today and you're struggling with that idea of like, who should I date? How should I know? What should my checklist be? Who am I going to marry? These are all choices that you and I have to make. They're not easy. They're big choices. What major should I go in? Maybe some of you are on your way to high school and through college. Maybe some of you are looking back at your college going, man, I wish I would have done this. What are we going to choose for our education? Or maybe you wonder, how should I handle a disagreement sometimes? These are decisions that we have to make. How do I get over this fight with my spouse? Where do I draw the line? Do I dig my heels in? Or do I just say I'm wrong and take it? What do we do? How do I get over this fight? Or maybe how do you handle the pressure to do something, maybe in your business or in your life, that you know is wrong? You see, all of us have to make these decisions throughout our day. All of us have to make these decisions throughout life. It's unavoidable. And some of us have a plan on how to answer some of these things. But other of us, we do a few things. Some of us, instead of doing this, when faced with a difficult decision, we do a few things. Maybe some of us ignore it and just hope it goes away. I've done this one before, where you just kind of like, it'll figure itself out. I'll just pretend that it's not happening over here. Maybe some of us ignore it. Maybe others of us let somebody else make the decision for you. Like you just call your best friend and you say, what should I do? And they say, dump them. And you're like, we're done. And so you let somebody else make the decision for you. Or maybe others of us, we just say, whatever, I'm just going to rush to make a quick decision without thinking or factoring in the consequences. See, there's a lot of times in our life where we can just make the first decision, the first reaction, and not think about what happens. But the truth is, every decision that we make, every decision that I make, every decision that you make, all comes with something. Your decisions have consequences. Now, consequences isn't just a negative word. There's positive words. Consequences can be positive, but every decision that we make has a consequence, whether good or bad. No pressure, right? Like you have to make it happen in life somehow. And so every decision has a consequence. And so what our decision chooses to impact is big. Our decisions can impact a few things. It can impact the people around you. You can make a choice today, and it could be a good choice or it could be a bad choice. It can directly affect the people in your life. Some of us forget that. Some of us forget that what we choose to do not only affects us, but it affects the people around you. It can affect the way people see you. Maybe you made a decision while you were driving the other day to throw your hand out the window, and it caused people to change the way they see you. Maybe you cut somebody off at Meijer, whatever you did, it changed how people see you. Maybe that every decision that you make impacts the way you see yourself. Maybe if you were honest with yourself and you look deep down at what was happening in your life and you look at the decisions that you made, it may change the way you see yourself. You know, we talked about those words, and we're going to talk about words again, about what is our word. Maybe you've let a decision or a word become your identity and define who you are. That can happen to us. Our decisions can impact the way we see ourselves. And finally, the thing that our decisions can impact is our future. Every decision we make can impact our future. And future can mean 20 years from now, but future can also mean tomorrow. And so when we make choices, we have to consider both the short-term and long-term. Now, it would be really easy if we could all make the right decision every single time, right? It would be so nice if I was going to stand up here and tell you, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you, a card, and then you look at the card, it's going to tell you every single right decision you will make for the rest of your life. Like, I would be like retiring on an island somewhere because of you guys have been giving me so much money for that. But that's not what I'm here to do. What I want us to think about and what I want us to look at is how we make decisions and the fact that what if there was actually something that prohibits us from making the right choice? What if there was something that could actually hold us back from the right choice? What if it's something that is a natural thing that pulls us in the wrong direction? What if there's this thing out there? And I believe that we all have a reflex in us. We all have something inside of us that naturally comes out with our first reactions and our first reflexes. And it makes it hard when it comes to decision making, and especially spur of the moment choices. Because usually it's not our long, drawn out decisions that will set us back in our life. Usually it's our short, quick reflexes. And you see, our natural reflexes can often lead us to the wrong place. Our natural reflex can lead us to do a few things. It can make us jump to conclusions. It can make us build a case against somebody. It can make us want to get revenge. It can allow us to take things personally. And it can cause us to act in selfishness. You see, our first reaction sometimes is not always the best one. I'm sure all of us can think back to a time where maybe you had an instinctive, reflexive reaction and you made a decision, maybe you said something, and you wish you could have it back. Maybe you snapped at your parents. Maybe you snapped at your in-laws. Maybe you snapped at a coworker. Maybe you said something so quickly and you didn't even take time to process it, and you wish you could have that back. Maybe you were pressured to make a decision that you truly didn't want to make, but in the moment you said yes, or in the moment you said no. You see, our snap judgments and our quick thinking every day have the potential to define our lives. And I believe that there is a natural reflex that will pull us in the wrong direction. And until we understand why our instincts are wrong, I believe we can miss the full potential that God has for you and I. And you see, Paul, he has this thing, and he understands this reflex. And Paul is one of the writers of the New Testament. He writes a good chunk of the New Testament, and he understands that there's this reflex in us. There's this reflex inside of you and me naturally. It's always there. And he calls it something, and he calls it this. He calls it sin. He says, there's this thing inside of you and I, and it's called sin. And what sin is sin is a separation between us and God. So I made this cool little stick figure diagram. Maybe you've seen this before. But here's you, New Year's you, new body, everything looking good. And here's God. And there's this separation between us and God. And it's this thing called sin. And you see, I choose to look at this. Sin is anything that separates you from God. And so Paul writes, and he believes that every person has this inside of them naturally. He says we're born with it. And in Romans 3:23, he says it like this. He says, everyone has sinned. No one measures up to God's glory. And so Paul levels the playing field. Paul says, you and I, Joe, Billy, John, Jeff, Diane, everybody in here, all of us have sinned, messed up. All of us have done things that have separated us from God. Now that's bad. That's like not good. That doesn't feel warm and fuzzy. And he says everyone has this thing inside of them that's called sin. And it's our nature. It's our reflex. Our first reaction, this is what it is. And Paul writes another letter to a group of people in Ephesians, and he says it like this. He says, our desires were controlled by this thing, sin. He says, we tried to satisfy what they wanted us to do. We followed our desires and our thoughts. And so Paul's saying, listen, we were controlled by this thing. It controlled our decisions. It controlled the way we live. It controlled how we did. But the thing that I've noticed about this verse, and the thing that stood out to me, is this is past tense. He says we were controlled. Something happened. He says this was our natural choice. This is the way it was. But something happened. Something changed. What changed was that somebody made a choice. 2,000 years ago, somebody made a choice, and his name was Jesus. And what Jesus said is, he says, I don't like this. I don't like that there's separation. I don't enjoy this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to earth. I'm going to live a perfect life, and I will be the sacrifice for all of the mistakes that people will make now and forever. And so Jesus died. And then when he was resurrected, he brought back to life, he conquered all of these sin things. And so when Paul says we once were controlled by sin, he says that was our reflex. He goes, that's not what it has to be anymore. This separation between us and God now has a bridge, and Jesus is that bridge. So you maybe have seen this drawn on napkins before or whatever, but this is the bridge between us and God, and this separation called sin. There's a bridge, and its name is Jesus. And so by us choosing to follow Jesus and accepting him in our life, what he does is not only does he create this bridge between us and God and we can live in relationship, but he says that old way of life, that reflex that we have, doesn't have to be so anymore. That's not the only option. Now there's a new option. And Paul writes another letter, and he says it like this. He says, when anyone lives in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is gone, and the new has come. You see, this is the good news. The good news is the fact that there is a bridge. There is somebody who took the price and paid in his life for our life, that we can have this right here. This new creation, this new life. This new plan, though, allows us and has to call for us to make a realization that the way that we naturally live isn't working. And what we have to do is we have to choose to surrender. And so what that looks for us is we have to surrender in our daily lives. And now the thing about this is it doesn't make sense for most of us. For most of us, what this idea means, to be surrendered, to become new, means we have to choose to do something that isn't normal. That maybe some of us will have to do the opposite of what we want to do. Because our natural reflex is wrong, we have to willingly choose to deny that and look in a different direction. We have to choose humility. We have to choose something that's countercultural. And Jesus begins to illustrate this in a passage that I think is not only so profound, it's also challenging. Because it's hard. It's not easy. In fact, it's difficult. And he illustrates this in this challenging way. And it's found in Matthew. And he says this. He says, there are two paths. And I love the translation of The Voice because it kind of paints it in a better light for me. It says, there are two paths before you. You may take only one path. Jesus is talking and he says, listen, there's two choices. You have to pick one. The choice is on us. And he says it like this. The one doorway is narrow and one door is wide. Go through the narrow door. And we look at this and we go, okay, well, what is the point of that? And then he continues on. And he says, listen, there's two paths. And he says, the wide door leads to a wide path, and the wide path is broad. The wide path is big. And he says, the wide, broad path is also easy. And the wide, broad, easy path has many, many people on it. And so what Jesus is setting up, he says, there's two ways you can live your life. The one way is easy. It's broad. Everybody's doing it. It's the way you should go. There's a lot of people on it, so why not just go with the flow? But what happens next is a word that I love seeing. It says this. which means something else is coming. He goes, the wide path is easy, it's wide, there's many people on it, there's tons of people who go that way, but the wide, broad, easy, crowded path leads to death. It's kind of shocking. And he says, but now then, that narrow door leads to a narrow road that in turn leads to life. He says there's a narrow road that leads to life. And then it continues on, and it says this: it is a hard to find that road. Not many people manage it. And so what Jesus is saying is he's saying, listen, there's two roads that we can walk down. One of them's easy, wide, broad, everybody's doing it. Now there's another road that's narrow, it's hard, and not many people can manage it. And the road that Jesus asks us to choose is the narrow road. He tells us to walk down the narrow road. You see, this is challenging for us because it is not easy. It is not cultural. It is not what we want to do. But what the narrow road is the narrow road is a choice. It's a choice that we have to make to ourselves. And it is a choice that if we choose to follow it, it means we have to say no to ourselves. We have to say no to what our reflex is. We have to say no to what the rest of our culture says we should do. The narrow road is a road that if we are not initially drawn to, it's not the first choice, it's not the easy choice, it's actually the hard one. The narrow road goes against the grain of our instincts. Quite frankly, it's the opposite of what you and I would want to do in every single situation. But the thing that we have to do is we have to choose this narrow road daily. You see, a narrow road with Jesus is choosing the opposite of our sin reflex. What does it look like, though? How can we do this? How can we live and choose to walk down a narrow road with every decision that we make? Well, like George Costanza said, maybe we have to do the opposite. Maybe we have to do the opposite of what our instincts are. And what would that look like? What would that look like if we changed how we reacted in certain situations? Well, what if we went from this? What if we went from this right here? Assuming the worst. Maybe some of you, there's people in your life who when they do things, you assume the worst about them. Maybe you assume the worst about your spouse. Whenever they say something, whenever they do something, you assume that they are not thinking of you, that you assume that you are the farthest thing from their mind. You assume that they have no desire to please you. What if we went from assuming the worst to believing the best? You see, that's not the natural reflex. Our natural reflex is to say, no, I don't believe them. They did all these things. We have a choice to how we view people. Our tendency is to jump to conclusions and build things up in our minds as the worst case scenario. What if instead we always chose to give people the benefit of the doubt? It's not easy. You don't want to do it. Maybe there's people at work who you're like, I don't want to believe the best about them. But what if we extended extra grace? Jesus extends grace to you and I. What if we flipped it and extended that to other people? It's the opposite of what we would want to do, but maybe it's what we need to do. What about if we've been wronged and we want to get even? What if we want to get even with someone? Maybe someone said something about you, hurt you. It only feels right that we should hurt them back. Maybe someone cuts you off, you're going to speed up and cut them off. Maybe someone talks bad about you at work or in your family, and you think of something bad that you could say about them. What if we have a choice, though? What if we choose to move from getting even to giving it up? What if we just say, you know what? I'm going to forget about this. I'm going to let this go. You see, Jesus illustrates this perfectly in Matthew, where he says, you have heard it said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. That's the wide, broad path. That's the one that everyone does. That's the easy one. He says, but here's what I tell you. Narrow road. Love your enemies. Pray for those who hurt you. It's not easy. It's not what you want to do, but that's the narrow road that we may have to choose. What if instead of we move from living for ourselves and living for us, and what if we said no? What if we said die to ourselves? Put other people's needs ahead of our own. What if we have this tendency to look out for other people instead of looking at us as number one? What if instead of saying, man, my weekends are so busy, my weekends are so full, I'm going to enjoy them for me. What if we said, no, I can give back somewhere. I can volunteer maybe here in our kids' area or in our communities. What if we said no to ourselves and walked down that narrow road and gave back to somebody else? What if instead of powering up, we begin to humble ourselves? Instead of looking out for our own interest, we begin to look out for the interest of the people around us. You see, what Jesus says to his follower in another verse is one of the most pitting definitions of the narrow road. He says this and he said this to all of them. Whoever wants to follow me must say no to themselves. They must pick up their cross, its burden, pain, every day and follow me. What Jesus is saying is he says, listen, if you want to truly follow me, you need to do something that's so countercultural. You need to pick up your cross every day and follow me. This is not easy. This is not fun. But this is what it looks like to walk down the narrow road. And could you imagine how much different your life would be if you chose to do this every single day? If you chose to walk down the narrow road, to make decisions, not with yourself in mind, but maybe with others in mind, not with your first reaction, but what with that reaction of it looks like to walk down a narrow road that maybe nobody else is doing. How would our relationships look? How would your family dynamic look? If instead of walking down the wide, easy path, you walk down that narrow road with your family. You did things that were countercultural. You spent time where maybe others would say you should go do stuff for yourself. Maybe us in this room today are being challenged to walk down that narrow road. What would your relationships look like? Who could we avoid hurting if maybe we chose to walk down that narrow path? Instead of snapping back at someone else, we offered grace. We extended forgiveness. How might your impact as a leader in this community, as somebody in the workplace, have increased if we chose to walk down the narrow path? And so to kind of wrap things up today, what I want us to know is the narrow road needs to become our new reflex. It needs to become the new first thing that we do. Instead of walking down the big highway where everyone's going, we need to choose to walk down this narrow road that sometimes is not easy, sometimes is more difficult, but at the end of the day, it may be the most fruitful and the most rewarding way to live our lives. And as we wrap up today, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video. And earlier I said maybe you have let some decisions in your life define you. Maybe you began to think of them as your word, as how you identify yourself. And maybe after hearing this, you know that there are some things in your life that you maybe want to change or need to change. Maybe there's a new word that's coming inside of you. Maybe right now you've been sitting here going, man, like I've just been a failure. I have not been good. Maybe there's a new word that God wants to speak to you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to watch a video right now that across our Kensington campus and our community, there are people sitting in an auditorium just like this who are thinking and maybe asking God, what is my new word? Who am I going to be? Maybe it's a narrow word. Maybe there's something in your life that you want to live this out. And maybe there's a word that you're thinking of. And so as we watch this video, be maybe thinking in your heart, what is my word? What can I do differently? How can I change? What is 2018 going to look like for me? Would you watch this with me?
The Lord kind of revealed to me my word at the end of a season of dryness in my life. That's when he kind of came in and just hushed a lot of my fears, saying, don't worry, don't fear, you're going to be my witness in 2018. My word for 2018 is witness.
2 Corinthians 10:5 says, we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. I'm free to live my life feeling oppressed and depressed by what others think of me, or I'm free to choose to believe what God says about me. My word for 2018 is free.
I just recently started Claim Your Campus, which is a prayer movement with all the high schoolers. It's been growing rapidly. It's just going to change the lives of so many people. It's going to be huge. My word for 2018 is unforgettable.
I chose hope for my word. Hope is the only thing that allows me to continue to live this life. It's the reason why I've been having joy in my heart. I realize even if I go through trials or tribulations or struggles or make mistakes or fall, my hope is still in Christ alone. My word for 2018 is hope.
My word for 2018 is intentional. I would like to be intentional with my relationships, with the Lord, with my friends, and with my family. I'd like to be intentional with my time. And if I am intentional, I believe that I can make a difference. My word for 2018 is intentional.
When I reflected on 2017, I don't think I experienced a lot of peace. I think following Jesus, we're supposed to have abundant blessings, and peace is one of those. So my word for 2018 is peace.
And so as we spend our last few moments here together, what I want to encourage you to do is in the seat backs in front of you, there should be a Sharpie, or you got one on your way. And what I want to do is I want to pray for us. And in that moment, I want you to sit back and take a moment to think about this new year. Maybe the choices you made this year in 2017, the choices you want to make, your hopes, your dreams, your goals for this next year. And maybe ask God in this quiet moment, what is my word? What is the word you want me to live out this year? What is the word that maybe you have for me? And so I'm going to pray, and if you feel comfortable enough to write it on your hand, we're going to encourage you to do that. We're going to write maybe the word on our hand, and we've encouraged you to post it online, post it on social media, do those things. But what is that word for you that you want to define you going into this next year? Maybe it's a word that God has told you. Maybe it's a word that you're feeling inside right now. But I want us to think and pray about that together. God, thank you for today. And thank you for just the time we have here to spend with you as we get ready to launch into 2018, God. I pray that as we leave here today, we'll be inspired, God. Maybe you're doing something. Maybe you're stirring something in our hearts right now, God. I pray that as every person sits here today, you will impress a word upon their hearts of who you want them to be in this new year, God. Thank you, and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Waking up knowing there's a reason. All my dreams come alive. Life is for living with you. I've made my decision. You lift me up, fill my eyes with wonder. Forever young in your love, this freedom's untainted. With you, no moment is wasted. See the sun now bursting through the clouds. Black and white turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. Ooh. This is living now. Ooh. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me soar. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more. You lead the way, God, you're right beside me. In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. This life you created, I choose. See the sun now bursting through the clouds. Black and white turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. white turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me so. Got your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more.
This last song we want to lead you guys in today is just a song of declaration, and it's called No Longer Slaves. And the heart behind this song is really just to invite you into this place of worship where we're just making a declaration to God, and really over 2018 saying, man, I'm not going to be a slave to fear. I'm not going to let any of the past failures, any of the past mindsets that we might have had really hinder me from really just doing what Joe said, just really being bold and making that decision. So if you want, you guys can stand during this next song and sing if you want, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But I just want to share this with you. My word for 2018 is a word called envision. And that might sound like, ooh, it's a big word or whatever, but really for me, the word envision is the action of having a vision. You know what I mean? It's really putting work into what I'm believing God's calling me for 2018. So wherever you're at, whatever your word is, just let that be the framework in how we worship today. Let's sing this together. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. Sing, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Oh yes. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. Been born again into your family. Your blood flows through our veins. Come on, let's sing it out, make it personal. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Sing it again. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yeah. Yes, I am a child of God. No, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Sing, I am surrounded. Come on, sing it out. I am surrounded by the arms of a the Father. Yes, I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. Yes, I am surrounded. Come on, let's sing it out. By the arms of the Father. Yes, I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. Yes, we're the sons and the daughters. Sing it out. Let us sing of freedom. We sing, oh, oh, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and say, yes, I am a child of God. Oh, we sing it again. You split the sea. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and say, yes, I am a child of God. Oh, we're full of faith. Yes, I am a child of God. Oh, we sing, we declare it. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Carrie. As we wrap up today, hopefully you've chosen a word to maybe represent you in this new year. For me, I chose the word honor. I want to honor not only the people around me, but my family, and honor God first in everything that I do this year. So that's the word I've chosen. We would love to see what words you've chosen. So if you would share those with us, either on our Facebook page or Instagram, all those good things would be fun for you. So that is all we have for today. We hope you have a safe and fun New Year's Eve. Hopefully Michigan continue the good work of the Big Ten tomorrow. Go Blue, have a great day, and we'll see you next week for Crave.
everybody, and thank you so much for watching online. Thank you for following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My name is Taylor Leal, and I am our kids director here. And we just want to say Happy New Year. There's probably a ton of you that are actually watching online now more than ever, because here in Traverse City, we have a ton of snow. So thank you so much for watching us online. Today we are jumping into a message that's all about decision making. So what a great time to talk about decision making when we are thinking about our New Year's resolutions and all of that fun stuff. So in just a moment, we are going to play a video about our leadership gathering that's coming up, and I want you guys to know online that you are invited to that. So in a few moments, take a look at this.
Lead. You can't lead if you're not hearing the voice of God.
Together, there is nothing that we can't do. I really believe that God has given us a sacred trust.
But God wants to do the work in you first, and He wants you to respond so that we can go out in force together from this place.
Good. This is awesome. So, yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How you doing today? You guys good? I know there's only a few of you because the weather is so horrible. So thanks for muscling the snow and getting here today. That's so awesome. Well, you guys just watched our leadership gathering video. And if you've been hanging out for us for quite some time, you know that we have a leadership gathering twice a year. And really, our leadership gathering is for people who call Kensington home. And it's a time for us to get recharged as leaders. If you're leading a ministry here, or maybe you're just attending and you're thinking about getting jumped in, or maybe if you just want to hear and understand the mission and vision of our church and why we do what we do, we want you to know that that leadership gathering is an invitation for you to come and hang out with us January 19th through 20th, and it is actually happening downstate. So come and hang out with us there. Before we get into things, we have Ryan and Carrie, and they're going to lead us into some songs. But before they do that, I would love for you guys to stand up, give a high five to the people around you, because they bared the snow with you this morning. So high five the people around you, and we cannot wait to have a great morning. So enjoy.
Well, cool. So glad you guys were able to come out. Like Taylor said, my name is Ryan, and this is Carrie here on my right. And we're going to lead you guys in a song called Shine a Light. And I just think it's so fitting for the new year, you know, just making a declarative statement with our voices about witnessing and about just being a light, not just with our lips, but with our life. So I just encourage you, if you've never sung this song before, just let the words just kind of impact you. If you know the song, feel free to sing along. And yeah, let's sing together. Waking up to another life. No more sorrow and no more night. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Burning bright, 'cause we're not ashamed. Got a world to illuminate. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness, and we declare your kingdom's here. Because our God is for us, we're living in the promise. We declare your kingdom's here, yeah. Shadows fade as you now arise. Hope is here with no end in sight. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Sing that again, you're the light. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness. We declare the kingdom's here. Because our God is for us, we're living in the promise. And we declare the kingdom's here. Sing, shine a light, shine a light, shine a light. Come on, you sing. Shine a light, shine a light. 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 Lift your voice. Shine a light, shine a light. Yeah. Shine a light, shine a light. Oh, we got a light and we're gonna shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. We sing, we got a light and we're gonna shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. Amen. This next one is a familiar one we've done quite a few times, and it's called What a Beautiful Name. And I love why it connects to the song we just did, because really we don't have anything to shine, anything to say, anything to live by if we don't understand the story of this song talks about, and that's the story of Jesus. This is a story of his death, his burial, and his resurrection. And just thinking into the new year, I just encourage you, let's just reflect on this for a little bit. If you want to sing, feel free to sing. If you're new and you're just new to this whole Jesus thing, you're watching online, maybe you're in the crowd, just encourage you, just read the words, or even let it be a prayer and say, man, God, if you're real, if you're true, just reveal yourself to me through these songs and through these words and through the service today. Let's sing this together. You were the Word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. Didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great, your love was greater. What can separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. Let's sing it out. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. not hold you. The veil torn before you. You silence the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring, the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. So you have no rival. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Oh, yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is, and nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. You have no rival, you have no equal. Sing it out. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom. Say, come on. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. Let's sing that again. You have no rival. You have no equal. Just the voices. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus.
Thanks, Ryan and Carrie. You guys can have a seat. Thanks for coming here today. My name is Joe Leal, and I'm our Student Ministries Director, and we are so glad that you braved the winter storms to get out here. If the roads look like they're fine, they're getting better. So thank you for coming out today. We're happy that you're joining us here. And it's New Year's Eve. Who's got big New Year's Eve plans tonight? Anyone? Oh, cool. We're all going to hang out together. We all like to portray like we have a cool life, but really we're all going to stay home tonight. So that's cool. At least we're all on the same page. At least we know. You guys can all come over to my house. I'm just kidding. Don't come over. We're going to be in bed like 9. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. 2017. I love New Year's Eve because it's a time where it's like a natural time for us to kind of look back at the year that we had. And here at our campus, we've had some exciting things happen. We've had some really cool opportunities for our campus to do some amazing things. I think back to the summer when we had a movie on the lawn and there wasn't snowbanks. Like there was a nice, we had a few hundred people out there. We watched a movie together. It was a great way for people in our community to just come to church and have a fun time and a fun night. I look at events like our baptisms. We got to see over 40 people at this campus alone get baptized, either on the lawn or in here in a service. We've had amazing things like that. I look back to our student ministries retreat. We got to see over 60 middle school and high school students go to retreat, have a life-changing experience. It was an amazingly fun time. I look back to our local outreach. We've done so much with our schools in Traverse Heights, where we did Thanksgiving baskets, we did trunk or treat. There was a ton of really cool things that we got to be a part of and that we got to see. And a lot of that was done through your generosity and things that you gave. And so first off, we just want to say thank you. And as we are kind of wrapping up this year, we wanted to see a message from our founder and one of our founding pastors, Steve Andrews, as a thank you to what we've been a part of this year. So if you would, join me in watching this.
Hey, I hope you've had an amazing Christmas holiday. And I know that many of you, tons of you, have made a year-end Christmas gift to Kensington, and that some of you are still planning on it. I want you to know that today is your last day in the service and also online to make this happen. And I want you to know even more than that your giving and your partnership means the world to me. We have no idea how many people God is going to allow us to touch in 2018, but your giving allows us to blast into a new year. Thank you so much.
So like he says thank you. We say thank you because without your giving and without your gifts, we can't do any of the things that we do here. So once again, we just wanted to say thank you. And as we are kind of starting off this new year, we're going to be talking about this idea called My Word. And you got a Sharpie when you were coming in. We'll get to that later on. Don't draw on your person in front of you's head or anything. We'll save something for later on. But we want you to be thinking about what is your word for 2018. And as we kind of scroll through social media, I know for me, like when I scroll through Facebook and Instagram, right now is like a fun time because you get to see everyone's like New Year's resolutions. Everyone's all motivated, inspired, like they're feeling good, like new year, new me. It's going to be really cool. And so I love scrolling through Facebook and seeing like motivational quotes. I really do. Like I love cheesy quotes. Like I'm that guy who'm like, I love cliches. Like I just think it's great. And so I thought like, I mean, you guys are motivated. You're here today. You braved, the winter snowstorm of Traverse City phase 1. And so like you got here today. It's amazing. And so I thought like we could start off with some motivational quotes. And so I picked a couple of my favorites. The first one is here by a guy named Henry Ford, who I love and respect. He says this. He says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Like, that's a good quote, right? Like some of you are like writing that down. Like I'm going to tweet that later. Like that's really, really good. There's another one here. I love this one. It's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Everyone go, Like that's a good quote right there. That's a nice, and that looks good if you like put that like in a good filter and everything, and like maybe put like a wood table behind it. That looks really, really good. This one by Walt Disney. He says, when you believe in a thing, believe in it all the way, implicitly unquestionable. Walt Disney, creator, like this guy, like it's an inspirational quote. This is one of my favorite. Like maybe like 10 people are going to understand it, but I'm for you. So this one, I love this one. It says, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. If you have no idea what that means, you didn't watch The Office and you just missed this part. But for those of you who watched it, that's for you. And now this one is one that like it is by a great theologian. It's actually what we're going to base most of today's message about. And it is a powerful quote, and it's one that is etched in my life and my heart. And it's it's profound, it's powerful, and it has the power to change your life. And it's by the theologian George Costanza. And he says this. He says, I should do the opposite. And if you've never seen this clip, I'm going to show it to you right now because he has this piece of wisdom where he thinks it may change his life. And we're actually going to talk about it today. So would you join me in watching this?
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong. My life is the complete opposite of everything I want it to be. Every instinct I have in every aspect of life, be it something to wear, something to eat, it's all been wrong.
Tuna on toast, coleslaw, cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. I always have tuna on toast. Nothing's ever worked out for me with tuna on toast. I want the complete opposite of tuna on toast. Chicken salad on rye. Untoasted, with a side of potato salad, and a cup of tea.
Well, there's no telling what can happen from this.
Chicken salad's not the opposite of tuna. Salmon's the opposite of tuna, because salmon swim against the current, and the tuna swim with it.
Good for the tuna.
George, that woman just looked at you.
So what? What am I supposed to do?
Go talk to her.
Elaine, bald men with no jobs and no money who live with their parents Don't approach strange women.
Well, here's your chance to try the opposite. Instead of tuna salad and being intimidated by women, chicken salad and going right up to them.
Yeah, I should do the opposite. I should.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes. I will do the opposite. I used to sit here and do nothing and regret it for the rest of the day. So now I will do the opposite and I will do something. Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that you were looking in my direction.
Oh, yes, I was. You just ordered the same exact lunch as me.
My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
I'm sure some people are walking in right now going, am I at a church right now? Did I take a wrong turn? Yes, we're talking about a little bit of Seinfeld today. I love that right there because George says something in the beginning of that clip where maybe you felt this before. He opens up and he sits down with Jerry and Elaine and he sits down and he says, every decision I have ever made in my entire life has been wrong. How many of us at one point or another have felt like that at some point? Like every decision we make is the wrong one. We can never make the right decision. Some of us have felt like that. I know I have felt like that. There's been times in my life where I've looked at that and I'm going, man, that's me. Like I can't catch a break. I can't make the right call. Everything I try to do has blown up in my face. It's not working. And maybe if you're like me, maybe for a brief moment, you've let that define who you are. In one way or another, you've taken one of those failures, one of those things, and you've let it become who you are. And what I've learned is it's easy to let words we hear and think define us. It's really simple to let the words we hear and the things we hear about us begin to shape us and begin to define us. Maybe you've heard at one point that you were a failure. Maybe you failed at a relationship, a marriage, a business, something. You failed. And you hear that word, and you hear, well, since I failed at this, that must mean I am a blank. I'm a failure. And you assume that that's who you are. Maybe some of us have heard that you're insignificant, that your job doesn't matter, that you're just a pipe in the system. You're just that. And you begin to believe it. Or maybe you've even felt unloved. And you felt like, man, I'm just, I don't deserve anything. And you begin to think that that is the right thing. You see, what I believe about every single person in here, I believe that no matter where we've been from and no matter what we've done, I believe that every one of us has one thing in common, that we all want to be awesome, right? Like if all of us were sitting in here, just us talking, and I went to every person here wants to be awesome at something. Whether it's you want to be an awesome dad, you want to be an awesome teacher, you want to be an awesome whatever. When I was little, I wanted to be awesome pro wrestler, and so I wanted to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that's who I wanted to be when I was younger. And I don't know, maybe some of you, what are like, as we do, so I'm going to invite the ushers to come down, but just curious, and they're going to take today's offering, but just curious, when you were younger, what was something that you wanted to be awesome at? Anyone just want to shout it out? I heard someone in the first service say singer. What would you want to be awesome at when you were younger? Anybody? No one wanted to be good at anything. I'm sure there's people who wanted to be awesome. I know I wanted to be an awesome wrestler. Maybe some of you, I heard someone in the first service said they wanted to be an awesome bass fisherman. Maybe there's things in here that you wanted to be awesome at. The truth is all of us want that. We all want to be good at something. We all want to be awesome at something. For me, I wanted to be a good pro wrestler. But as I get older and as I grow up, those things have changed. Now my focus has shifted. Now I want to be a better dad. I have a son who's 7 months old, and I'm crazy to think about in 18 years I'm going to launch him into the world. And how have I led up to that? And so I want to become a better dad. Maybe some of you want to become a better husband or become a better wife or mom. And you look at where you're at now and you say, that's what I want to be awesome at. Others of us look at it and say, we want to be great at our jobs. Some of you have unique skill sets and unique qualities that make you amazingly talented at what you do. And you look at it and you realize that you have a gift and you want to be amazing. You want to be awesome at that. Others of us sit here and we can say, we want to have a great family. We want our family to look right. We want our family to maybe have the right, motivation, the right direction. We want our family to be awesome. Others of us, maybe we look at it and we said, I wish I had a stronger faith. I wish my faith was better. I wish I was awesome at that. Maybe there's little things like you want to be cooking or you want to become the better whatever. We all have things that we want to be better at. And maybe you had some hopes and dreams of things that you thought you were going to be awesome at. But along the way, something derailed you. Something, maybe it was a decision, a choice, something along the way derailed or sabotaged those plans. And we all want to be awesome. But one thing is very true. It's awesomeness doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen overnight. You just don't wake up in the morning and become great at something. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes choices over and over again to become great at something. If you want to be awesome at something, you have to constantly make choices to help get you there. And like I said, me and my wife, Taylor, we just started off getting married last year. And so we have a house, we have a family, Jackson, and we're looking ahead at our life. And one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to create a financial situation for our family that's good. And so we're looking at all the things that we can do. And so we have some goals, mainly like you have goals in your life. But what we had a few weeks ago is we had a situation where me and her had a goal. We had our finances and we wanted to do something with them, but then we just made some decisions along the way that as we were making them didn't seem like terrible decisions, but the small decisions over and over again led to a problem. And so we started off by saying, yeah, we could do all these things. And so we had a goal that we were pushing towards, and then somebody asked us to be in their wedding, and of course we said yes, and then a $300 suit, and a $50, haircut, and then a $75, like all these expenses added up, and it was just, okay, that was fine. And then of course we were visiting our friends, and we're like, well, we need to go out to dinner. We have to go to this place and this restaurant. And so we said yes to these things. And then all of a sudden, we're like, well, our friend's in town. We should probably, he's really handy, and he wants to help us with our basement. We should start doing that stuff. And of course, we bought nice things. And so all of a sudden, we had a goal. We said a few yeses. And all of a sudden, a few weeks later, we're looking back and we're going, man, how are we so far away from our goal now? We were doing so well, and it was because we made choices along the way that pushed us away from where we wanted to go. And I'm sure some of us in here, this room, have had that, where you've had a plan, you've had something that you've been thinking about or working towards, and along the way, maybe a choice happened, a thing happened that pulled you away from that. Maybe it wasn't even something bad, but just choices happen, and we're not where we want to be. And so what if we do? What if there's something in this, people in this room that want to be awesome at something big? How can we do that? What if you're sitting in here and you say, I want to be awesome with friendships. I want to be awesome with my reputation. I want people to look at me as a leader in this community, as a leader in this family, as a leader in this business. I want to have a rock solid reputation. What if you're sitting here saying, I want to have a great career one day? I want to be strong in our finances. I want to have a strong family. I want to have a strong faith. What if all of us just want to be awesome at life? If awesomeness just doesn't happen, we have to work towards that. And so we have to make decisions every single day. And when we want to shoot for big things, a lot of the decisions we make aren't just black and white. They're not just yes or no. There's this gray area in the middle that leaves us in the spot where we have to begin to make choices. And the thing that I've learned in my life is that big goals in life start with something very small. The biggest goals you and I have, they start with something very small. It's our choices. The choices you and I make. The choices we make every single day, however small or insignificant we may think they are, over time, our small choices add up to become something big. And the truth is, you and I know this, that decision making in general is unavoidable. We are always going to have to make decisions. We are always going to have to make choices. We're making choices right now. Some of you are making choices in this moment. You're trying to think about, who am I going to spend New Year's Eve? What are we doing? What are we bringing? Am I bringing, this? Am I bringing that? Do they like this? Do they like... You're thinking of choices right now in your head right now. Maybe some of you are sitting here and you're single and you're running through the choices of who I should date. Should I date this person? Should I date that person? Maybe some of you have been dating someone and now you're in this new boat where like, well, should I marry them? Do I really want to spend the rest of my life? You're making choices now. Maybe some of you are in high school or in college and you're trying to figure out, what is that major? What am I going to spend my money on in my education? We're making choices every single day. How should I handle this disagreement? Maybe some of you, you're sitting next to someone who you're currently in a fight with, which is always fun. But you're thinking, how am I going to handle this when I get home? Should I just give up? Is he right? No, never. Is she right? Yes, always. There's there. I solved your situation there. And so how do we handle these disagreements? You're wondering, should I say this? Should I say that? Or maybe some of us are sitting in here trying to figure out and navigate, how do we handle the pressure to do something either in our personal life, in our professional life, in whatever life, to do something that we know is wrong. You see, we're sitting here wondering, how do we make these big decisions? Decision-making is unavoidable. We all have to make them. Now, some of us, I believe, have a plan for how to answer these. Maybe some of you have, this down. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. Then there's others of us who don't know how to do it. And the way we handle decisions and the way we handle it is sometimes when we're faced with a difficult decision, we do a few things. Maybe we ignore it and hope it goes away, right? Anyone ever try this one? Just like bury your head in the sand, like, nope, it's not going to happen. It's not going to, whatever. Just ignore it. It'll all go away. That's an easy one to do. Another one is sometimes we let somebody else make the decision. Maybe you just call your buddy and say, hey, what should I do? And they're like, dump her. And you're like, okay, she's gone. Or maybe ladies, you're like, what should I do? Like, Miriam, okay, yeah, I'm ready. Whatever. You have to let someone else make the decision for you. Or maybe this is the hardest one sometimes. Maybe we just rush to make a decision without factoring consequences. You see, this is the dangerous one right here, where we can just spit something off a whim without factoring in things. Because what I've learned in my life, and you know this is true, every decision in your decisions have consequences, either negative or positive. Every decision that you make has either a negative consequence or a positive consequence. And so when we begin to think about the decisions we make and the things we do and how we want to set ourselves up for a new year, we have to remember that our decisions have consequences. And every decision that you make has an impact. It can impact a few things. It can impact the people around you. This is hard to remember sometimes. Sometimes we just think, well, it's just my choice. It's my decision. But the truth is there's a lot of decisions that you and I can make that can impact the people around us. It can impact your family. It can impact your livelihood. It can impact your reputation. It can impact all these things. It can impact the people around you. It can also, every decision that you make impacts this idea. It impacts the way that people see you, the way you're viewed, the respect you carry, the way people talk about you. It also impacts the way you may see yourself. Like I said, maybe you've been defining yourself by a decision you made. Maybe there's something that happened in your life where you say, this is all that I am. This is who I am. This is what I am. Whatever that is. Maybe that's a word that you carry with you. You say, man, I was a failure, so I am a failure. I failed, so I am. I'm insignificant. I am. That's who I am. And the last thing our decision can impact is our future. And your future is a big deal. Your future is not just 20 years from now. It could be tomorrow. And so when we make decisions, we have to consider both short-term and long-term consequences for them. And I would love to sit up here today and say, well, guess what? Now, the good news is I have a card right here where it tells you every right decision you'll make for the rest of your life. I would sit up here and you would all come forward and then I would go retire on an island because of all the money you would give me. It would be so nice for that to happen, but that's not how this works. No one's going to sit here and tell you every decision that you should make and how to make the right decision. I wish it was that easy. But what we are going to talk about is the fact that what if there was something inside of you that actually prohibits you from making the right choice sometimes? What if there's something naturally going on inside of you that pulls you in the wrong direction? You see, it's hard sometimes to think about that. It's hard to come to a decision making, and especially spur of the moments when I feel we have a natural reaction sometimes to not do the right thing. Sometimes our reflex is off. Our natural reflex of how we make decisions and how we think about things can lead us in the wrong direction. And what it can lead us to do is it can allow us to jump to conclusions. Maybe there's something that happened in your life and the first thing you do is you jump to conclusions. Maybe when something, and our natural reflex also causes us to build cases against people. To say, this person wronged me, this person did that, I'm going to hold it. We build a case. Maybe it helps us, and our natural reflex wants us to get revenge. Or our natural reflex wants us to take things personally. Or it wants us to act selfishly. You see, this is the natural thing that we sometimes do. It's instinctive. It's a reflex that's lodged deep inside of us. And I believe that it's lodged there and not by an accident. I believe that it's all there because of something. And you see, there's a writer in the New Testament, his name is Paul. And Paul understands that this natural reflex inside of us has a name. It's called something. There's an instinct inside of us. There's a natural pull. There's something inside of us that naturally will pull us in the wrong direction. And he understands this. He calls it something and he calls it sin. He says there's a thing that's inside of you and inside of me. Not by our choice, it's just there. And it's called sin. And it's a weird word to think about, and I was having trouble defining it. But what I always define sin as is sin is just separation between you and God. So are the decisions that we make separating us between God? And so it's usually represented by this kind of diagram. Maybe you've seen this like on an old church pew or something. But here's us, like new year, new body. Everything looks good, right? We all look good. And so there's us, and then there's God. And there's this separation between us called sin. And so everything here that separates us and God is called sin. And so Paul understands that we all have this. And he writes in a letter to a group of people called the Romans, and he says this. He says, everyone has sinned. Nobody measures up to God's glory. And so Paul levels the playing field. He says every person in here has messed up. Nobody is perfect. We all have this thing called sin. We're all there. He said, this is us. This is us. And everyone has this reflex inside of us that's called sin. And it's not fun. We don't like it. And none of us would choose it. But it's there. And he says this, and he says this in another letter. He reminds a group of people in Ephesians, in the church in Ephesus, and he says this to them in Ephesians. He says, our desires were controlled by sin. We tried to satisfy what they wanted us to do, and we followed our desires and our thoughts. So Paul says, listen, we have this thing inside of us. Everybody has it. And what it does is it controls us. And it wants us to do certain things. It wants us to go in a certain way. It's our natural pull to go in this direction. But what I love about this verse is it's past tense. Paul's writing and he says, you were controlled by sin. They wanted us. It's all past tense. Something has changed. Something has changed since Paul has wrote this. And what happens is he says, you were once like this, but then something happened. What happened was somebody made a choice. And the person who made that choice was Jesus. And so what Jesus did is he saw this world where people were controlled by sin. It was their natural reflex. It was who they were. And he said, that's not right. And so what he did is he came to this earth. He walked a sinless life, and he was sacrificed for you and for I because we always would have this pull. And so what Jesus does by doing that is he creates a new plan. He creates a way that says you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to be controlled by this. Yes, it's going to be natural. Yes, it's the reflex, but it doesn't have to define who you are. And so what Jesus does is essentially Jesus builds a bridge between us and God. Jesus is the bridge between us and God. And so now there was this separation before, and this is like cheesy. You've seen like your grandparents draw this or something. But this is a great reminder for us to go that the bridge between us and God is Jesus. And the separation is sin, but he's over that. And so when we choose to live in this, and we choose to accept this as truth, then something changes. You see, Paul says once you were controlled by this, you did do this, and now this is what he says to a church in Corinth. He says when anyone lives in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, and the new has come. You see, this is the good news of Jesus. This is the good news that says what you were once controlled by, you don't have to be controlled by that anymore. But what this plan now requires us to do is something that's challenging. It has us to have to come to a realization that the way that we naturally are inclined to live isn't working. The way that we naturally would make decisions, the way that we naturally would choose to live is not the way that works. And so what we have to do is we have to have a choice to surrender. A daily surrender to choose to do something that is countercultural at times. To choose to do something that involves humility. To choose to do something that goes against the natural flow of what we want to do. And you see, as Jesus illustrates this point, I think so well in a profound way and in a challenging way. He says it like this in Matthew. He says there are two paths before you. You may take only one path. And so Jesus lays this out real simply. He says there's a road right here and a road right here. You have to pick one. You can't go down both. You can't see what it's like. You have to pick one. And he says one doorway is narrow and the other door is wide. And then he gives you a tip. He says choose to go through the narrow door. He says there's two paths you got to pick. One's wide, one is narrow. And then he goes on to explain this. And I love the translation of the Voice because it says this. It says, for the wide door leads to a wide path, and the wide path is broad. Like, okay, Captain Obvious, I get that. It says the wide, broad path is easy. Well, obviously, it's easy. And it says the wide, broad path, easy path, has many, many people on it. Because this is what everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to go down the easy path. Everyone wants to go down the wide, broad path. It's crowded. There's many, many people on it. And then he continues, and I love this word in Scripture because you know there's something else coming. It says, but. It's always like a big but in Scripture. And it says, but the wide, broad, easy, crowded path leads to death. Let's pause for a second. He sits there and he goes, it's wide. There's a lot of people on it. It's crowded. It's what everyone's doing. But it leads to death. And then he says, now then, that narrow door leads to a narrow road that leads to life. And now this is what he says right here. He doesn't stop. He says, it is hard to find that road. Not many people manage it. Now he says that wide road, it's easy. Everybody's doing it. It's the way to go. There's so many people on it. It's crowded. He says, but there's another road. This road is one that leads to life. It's a road that's hard. And it's also a road that not many people manage. And you see, this is the sobering part. This is the hard part because he gives us the choice. And so he says, what do you choose? Do you want to go down the wide path or do you want to go the narrow path? And the narrow road is a choice. You, in fact, have to choose to go down that. And that narrow road today in 2017, soon to be 2018, looks a lot different than the wide path of maybe the people around you. What this is actually asking you to do, and what this choice is actually asking you to make, is a choice that says, me second. My wants, my desires, my reflex, my natural way of thinking behind me. The narrow road is not a road that you're initially drawn to. It's not the road that you look at and you say, I would love to go down that one. It's a road that you have to choose to go down, and it's countercultural. Because the narrow road goes against your instincts. It goes against my instincts. Quite frankly, it's like what George said. It's the opposite of what you want to do. But the thing is, we have to choose this road daily. We have to choose it daily. And you see, the narrow road with Jesus, and choosing that is the opposite of our sin reflex. But the question is, what does it look like? How do we live like this? How does it look like to live and walk down a narrow road in your context today? Well, the truth is we have to do the opposite of your instincts. We have to do the opposite sometimes. What would it look like if we changed how we reacted to certain situations? What would it look like in your life if we changed how we responded to certain situations to intentionally go down a road that maybe not a lot of people would want to go down? What if we did this? What if we went from assuming the worst about somebody, to believing the best? That's the narrow road. You see, we have a choice of how we view people and how we view situations. Our tendency is to jump to conclusions and build up things in our mind as a worst case scenario. Like, there's no way my spouse understands or even cares about me. They're so selfish. Like all they do is think about themselves. We assume the worst. They don't care about me. They're only concerned about themselves. My friends, I don't even know. What if we began to believe the best? What if we changed our focus and did that? What if we walked down that road? It's not the easy road. It's easier to assume the worst. It takes grace. It takes forgiveness. It takes understanding all of the things that Jesus gave to us to do that for someone else. It's not our natural instinct. We don't want to do it. We want to hold tight. But maybe walking down the narrow road is believing the best. What about getting even? There are times where we want to get even with somebody. Maybe somebody hurts you. Maybe it only feels right to get them back. You should hurt them back because they hurt you. Maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic or at Meijer with their shopping cart. And you're like, well, I'm going to show you. And you get in front of that. Maybe you want to get them back. Maybe somebody talked bad about you at work. And so you're like, well, let me tell you about them. It's so easy to do that. But what if we have a choice to do something different? What if we have a choice to be like Elsa and say, let it go? Instead of getting even, what if we let it go? You see, Jesus says something about this too in Matthew. He says this, you have heard it said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. That's the wide road. That's the easy path. That's the one that everyone's going down. That's the one that we all know. That's what it's assumed. That's the crowded way. But then there's a narrow road piece where he says, but here is what I tell you. Love your enemies. Pray for those who hurt you. Shoot. I don't want to do that. That's not our instinct. That's not what we naturally are pulled to. But following Jesus means we have to choose to go down that narrow road at times. Or what if, instead of living for you and worried about what we can do for ourselves, worrying how we can spend our time, what we can do in our lives, for our family, for us, what if we begin to die to ourselves? You see, we have the tendency to look at ourselves as number one, to be selfish, to take care of ourselves, to take more than we deserve. That's our natural reaction. But what if instead we did something different? What if instead we began to not instead of building ourselves up, but humble ourselves? Instead of looking out for our own interests, began to look out for the interests of others. What if we began to look at our time and how we handle our time? And instead of saying, what can we do for me? How can I get one more weekend at our getaway house? How can we do one more vacation? What if we went against that and said, how can we do something for someone else? What if we began to serve here on a weekend with kids? What if we began to serve with our schools? What if we began to volunteer at other places? What if we began to not live for ourselves, but die to ourselves and live for others? You see, look at how Jesus explains this to one of his followers. I love it. He says this. He said to all of them, whoever wants to follow me must say no to themselves. They must pick up their cross. Think about that. The cross means so much. When we think about Easter, when we think about Jesus, when we think about the story, he says they must pick up their cross daily and follow me. It's not easy. It's not what we want to do. It's countercultural. It's not the wide path. It's the narrow road that Jesus is calling us to walk down. But if we choose to do that, and it is a choice, you don't have to do it. But if we choose to do that, what would it look like in our relationships? How much different could your life look if we chose to walk down the narrow road? Who would you still have in your life? Who would still be there? Maybe we could have avoided a fight, a struggle, a split, something, if we had chose to walk down the narrow road. What if we had chose to walk down the narrow road? Who could we have avoided hurting? Who could we have avoided? Who could we have saved that pain? And most importantly, how might your impact change? How might your impact change? As a person who lives here in the Traverse City area, how might your impact change if you chose to intentionally walk down this narrow road, saying no to ourselves, doing things that are countercultural, putting others first, humbling ourselves? What could that look like? You see, when we learn to choose the narrow road or do the opposite of what we reflexively want to do, what we're doing is we're building a new reflex. We're building a God reflex. And the ability to develop that and follow God in that has the potential to change our lives. And the way I want us to look at this, and we'll wrap up here, is this. Is the narrow road needs to become our new reflex. And how you live your life and how the things you do and what you choose to spend your time with, I want us to choose the narrow road. I'm working on choosing that in every single piece of my life. And as we look back on 2017, as we look back on this entire year of what it looks like for you, and you're looking ahead to 2018, maybe this narrow road is a road that you want to choose to walk down. Maybe it's something that you're sitting here going, I want to work and I want to be better at choosing this and having it become my new reflex. In a few minutes, we're going to watch a video right here that kind of sets up this idea. When you were coming in, you were handed a Sharpie. And the reason why we have you getting a Sharpie is, like I said earlier, maybe some of you have been defined by a word. Maybe in your past and in your life, you've been defined by something. And this year, and especially in 2018, you want a new thing. You want a new identity. You want a new way to look at this year. And so what we've chosen to do is this idea of walking down the narrow road is not easy. But maybe you're sitting here today and you're feeling something inside of you stir that says, I want to be different now. I want to make a change in my life. I want to live my life differently than how I have been living. we're going to take a second here and take a moment to pause. And maybe you're thinking that word now. Maybe there's a word that's coming to you. Maybe you've been feeling something, and whatever that word is, we want to encourage you to write it down. And we're going to talk about it in a second. But as you think about that, I want you to watch this video of some people in our Kensington community who have made that choice and been thinking about what word defines them. And maybe it'll help you think about what word will define you as we move forward in 2018.
The Lord kind of revealed to me my word at the end of a season of dryness in my life. That's when he kind of came in and just hushed a lot of my fears, saying, don't worry, don't fear, you're going to be my witness in 2018. My word for 2018 is witness.
2 Corinthians 10:5 says, we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. I'm free to live my life feeling oppressed and depressed by what others think of me, or I'm free to choose to believe what God says about me. My word for 2018 is free.
I just recently started Claim Your Campus, which is a prayer movement with all the high schoolers. It's been growing rapidly. It's just going to change the lives of so many people. It's going to be huge. My word for 2018 is unforgettable.
I chose hope for my word. Hope is the only thing that allows me to continue to live this life. It's the reason why I have joy in my heart. I realize even if I go through trials or tribulations or struggles or make mistakes or fall, my hope is still in Christ alone. My word for 2018 is hope.
My word for 2018 is intentional. I would like to be intentional with my relationships, with the Lord, with my friends, and with my family. I'd like to be intentional with my time. And if I am intentional, I believe that I can make a difference. My word for 2018 is intentional.
When I reflected on 2017, I don't think I experienced a lot of peace. I think following Jesus, we're supposed to have abundant blessings, and peace is one of those. So my word for 2018 is peace.
As we think about those words, maybe you're thinking right now of a word for you. The word I chose for me personally is honor. And I want to live with honor this year. I want to honor my family. I want to honor my wife. I want to honor my son. I want to honor this community that we're a part of. I want to live with that idea of honor and how can I honor others. That's the word that I've chosen for me. And maybe some of you are choosing a word right now. And as we are maybe going through that, I want to encourage you to do what we've done. I know Ryan's got one on his hand. I've got one on mine. And if you want to join us with that and writing what that is to you, I want to encourage you to do that at this time. And as we're doing that, Ryan and Carrie are going to lead us in a song called This Is Living. And it's going to be a slower version, a reflective version. And what we want you to do is think about what would it look like in your life if you lived out this word or your word and you lived it out in 2018. Would you join us together?
Waking up knowing there's a reason. All my dreams come alive. Life is worth living with you. I've made my decision. You lift me up, fill my eyes with wonder. Forever young in your love, freedom's untainted with you. No moment is wasted. See the sun now bursting through the clouds. Black and white turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. God, you're right beside me. In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. This life you created, I choose. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white, turn to colors all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. Ooh. This is living now. Ooh. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me soar. Got your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and see the sun now bursting through the clouds, black, white, turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white, turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. Ooh. This is living now. Ooh. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me soar. Got your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more.
This next song we're going to lead you guys in is called No Longer Slaves. And it's a song we've sung quite a few times here. And the reason kind of why we wanted to close the service with this specific song is because it's kind of a declaration. There's songs that we sing that are just praising God for who he is, and there's songs that we sing that are kind of prayers. But this song can be a prayer as well, but it's mainly a declaration. And I don't know about you, but my word for 2018, almost said 17, 2018 is the word envision. And that might seem like, oh, it's a really weird word. Why would you pick envision? But it's the action of having a vision for your year. It's the action of having a vision for anything, really. And for me, this past year, I had kind of a vision, but not real clear one. And so for me, in my relationship with God, my challenge and the thing that God has really just been, just poking at me just through Joe's message and everything God's been speaking through the messages here this year has been, man, have a clear vision for 2018. So wherever you're at, you might have a word that resonates with you. And really that step is to make a declaration and have a time with God, and that's my invitation to everybody here. So if you guys want to stand, and feel free to stand. We're going to sing the song, and like I said, just make it a declaration. Whatever your word is, visualize that word. And the chorus of the song is, I'm no longer a slave to fear, I'm a child of God. So just declare that over your life. Even if you're not great at singing, feel free to just go for it, man. This is a safe place. We're all family here, so just feel free to do that. And maybe you just want to reflect and you just want to look at the words. You're totally okay to do that as well. We're going to lead you guys in this song right now. You unravel me with melody. You surround me with a song. of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. Yes, I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. Come on, let's declare it. Yes, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Sing it again. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yeah. Yes, I am a child of God. Yes, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. Sing, I'm surrounded. Yes, I am surrounded by the arms of a Father. Yes, I am surrounded. Songs of deliverance. All right, so sing a bit louder. Come on. Yes, I am surrounded. By the arms of a Father, I am surrounded. Songs of deliverance. Yes, we've been liberated from our God. Let's sing this chorus together. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Come on, you sing, every voice. I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God.
What a way to end not only today, but 2017, singing together as a family. I love hearing you. Me and my wife Taylor were in the back saying, shh, listen how good they are. So we want to thank you for singing with us today and being a part. Like I said, hopefully you picked a word during this time. Maybe your word that'll represent and kind of push you and propel you forward into 2018. And if you did, we would love to see it. Just we love you to tag us on social media, either on Facebook or Instagram. But let us know maybe why you picked that word, what that word means to you. We can't wait to see that. We hope you have a safe New Year's Eve. Hopefully you have fun watching Michigan complete the Big Ten sweep. Good job, Michigan State, this week. All that good stuff. Hopefully you have a great time with family and friends tonight. We will see you next year.
Thank you so much to all of you who joined us online today. We hope that you too have found a word for yourself, and think about that today. Think about that before you go and do all your fun, crazy things today for your New Year's Eve parties and all the ways that you're going to celebrate. I hope that you'll think about the word that you wrote down on your hand or thought about in your head today. So we would love for you guys to join us next week when we start a new series called Crave, and we're going to talk about self-control and the things that we struggle with, because God knows we all struggle with something. So coming out with us next week for our new series called Crave. We can't wait to see you there. Have a good week.